Hi, I'm Tina from the Josh's Frogs Plant Department, and today we're going to learn about African violets. African violets are a member of the Gesneriid family, and we'll be working with these, which are miniature African violets. What a miniature African violet is it's an African violet that has a crown of less than 6 inches. It's from side to side. It measures less than 6 inches. So today we're going to plant the African violet in a new pot. When transplanting an African violet into a new pot, you don't want to go too much bigger than it's already in. 2 inches tops or the next size of the pot. African violets like to be a little bit root bound, so they do better if you tend not to go too much bigger in the pot size. Before planting your African violet, remove it from its pot and take a good look at the root system. Now, African violets, even though they like to be root bound, when you're planting them into a new pot, you probably want to take the roots a little bit on the bottom and just spread them out. Just like that, just gently with your thumb or forefinger, move the roots out. Now this one looks like it's in good shape, has a good root system. It's not quite root bound yet. And also, when you're transplanting your African violet, that's a really good time when you have it out of the pot to remove the bottom leaves. So just take a pair of scissors and just carefully snip the bottom leaves off. Any damaged leaves around the bottom should be removed. And also, this particular plant isn't blooming right now, but if you had a plant that's blooming, you want to remove all the blooms and the stems that the blooms are on. You really want to give the plant a good start in its new pot. You don't want all the energy of the plant to be focused on the blooms. You want it to be focused on creating new roots and adjusting to its new pot. So here we have Josh's Frogs African Violet Soil. Now, Josh's Frogs African Violet Soil is a special mix specifically for African violets of peat and vermiculite and perlite. And what that does, that mixture, is it allows water to quickly drain through when you're watering the African violet, which is really good because African violets are prone to root rot and they don't like to sit in a lot of water. So you want to make sure that whenever you're planting them, you have a really good quality soil and that the water will run quickly through the plant when you water it. Now we're going to fill the pot up, and what I like to do when I'm planting plants, transplanting plants, is I like to remove them from the pot and give it a dry run before you actually plant it. Now this is sitting a little high because African violets like their leaves to touch the side of the pot, which is probably opposite of what you would think. But that's just the way they like to grow, so don't plant too much, don't put too much soil in the pot so they sit up too high. So I think that's about good right there. So take your measurement. We're going to put your plant in. And we're going to start packing the soil around, but don't pack it too hard. Keep the soil loose. And use whatever tools are at your disposal. Grab a spoon from your kitchen. Anything that'll help you make the task easier. I'm just going to scoop some of this soil in around the plant. Just gently pack it in. Once you water it, the soil will tend to settle a little bit more. This is a good pot size. The African violets like a taller pot. About 4 inches is a good size. And this wasn't too much of a jump, just slightly bigger, which it'll also like. Terracotta pots are a good choice for African violets because they tend to allow the soil to dry out faster. And so there we have it. We have our African violet planted. Now, when your plant is planted, we're ready to water the plant. So what you want to do is have some type of measuring cup or watering can, and you don't want to pour the water on the leaves. African violet leaves are delicate, and if you put water on the leaves or get water on the leaves, you'll damage the leaves. So try to always keep the leaves dry and water from the soil level, not on top of the plant. So we're just going to give this a good drink since we just planted it, and give it a little bit of time to soak through. Now, the water should run out the bottom very quickly. You don't want the plant to sit in water. That's really bad for an African violet. Make sure that your water is not cold. Make sure it's room temperature. Cold water will damage the leaves also. And most importantly, no tap water. Tap water is really bad for plants. When you're watering plants, always use reverse osmosis water, any type of good quality drinking water. Distilled water will work. Never use tap water. Tap water is full of minerals that will build up in the plant soil and harm your plant. Not to mention the chlorine in the water. So we're giving this a good drink. It's not run all the way through yet. There we go. So you want to keep your African violet a little on the dry side. Only water it when the top of the soil dries out. Make sure that you have a good pot that has a good drainage hole so the water can run through. This particular type of soil is really light. The Josh's Frogs African violet soil is light. It'll allow the water to drain through quickly and also allow air circulation around the roots. It's not a heavy soil, it's a lighter mixture specifically made for African violets. Now once you have your African violet planted in your new pot, you want to make sure that the temperatures of the room that it's in stay between 65 and 75 degrees. African violets, anything below 50 degrees is probably fatal to an African violet, so you don't want to put it in a cold windowsill that gets drafted during the night or anything like that. So 65 to 75 is a good temperature. Also, your African violet would enjoy some bright light, possibly a couple hours of bright morning sun, but after that, put it in a bright indirect light. Don't let it bake in the sun in a hot afternoon. The more light an African violet gets, the more it blooms. Also, African violets need 8 hours of darkness every night. It's really important. So make sure that if you have them under artificial lights, that you give them a rest period. Very important. Keep your African violet in a humid environment. African violets love humidity just like people do. 40% humidity and above is pretty good. African violets enjoy a slightly acidic soil. They like their pH to be between about 6.4 and 6.9, so it's really important that you get a soil specifically for African violets. Now that you have your African violet repotted, make sure that when it starts blooming, you'll get a lot of nice blooms. Make sure that you deadhead it regularly. And when I say deadhead, what you want to do is, I have a plant right here to demonstrate. This plant's in bloom right now, and some of the blooms are past their peak. So what you want to do to encourage it to keep blooming is take a pair of scissors, or you could use a pair of tweezers, and get it right down to where the stem comes right out with the bloom on it, right out of the soil level, and snip it. And remove those dead blooms. Now this particular stem, you have a good bloom here, and these two are past their prime, so we're just going to snip those right off. And what that does is it encourages the plant to use its energy on the newer blooms and not the old blooms. So as long as you keep deadheading your African violet, it should stay in bloom for you quite nicely. There are many varieties of African violets on the market today. I have a sample right here of miniature African violets, and as you can see, they come in many colors, and the leaves are all different types, variegated and dark and light. There is a wide variety of African violets available on the market today. If you have any questions about African violets, African violet soil, or maybe just you want to purchase one for yourself or mom or grandma, just log on to joshsfrogs.com. We have a number of tutorials and how-to videos, or give us a call and we'll be happy to help you or answer any of your questions.